The great hall was silent. 300 delegates from across the galaxy sat in their seats, their many eyes fixed on the old ambassador who stood at the center of the chamber. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had bodies made of light and energy. But all of them were quiet. All of them were listening. Ambassador Kivron was very old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His gray skin was wrinkled like old paper, and his 4 arms moved slowly as he spoke. He had given this speech many times before. He would give it many times again. It was the most important speech in the galaxy. "You are new to the stars," he said to the young delegates. "Your species has just learned to travel between worlds. You have joined our great assembly, and you are welcome here. But before you take your place among us, you must learn our oldest law." He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared above him. It showed a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. The planet was beautiful, covered in oceans and clouds and green land. "This is Earth," Kivran said, "the home of humanity. And this is the law that governs all contact with them." The hologram changed. Now it showed words written in every language of every species in the assembly. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of 10,000 years. "The Galactic Prohibition," Kivran read aloud. "No species shall interfere in human conflicts. No species shall provide weapons, soldiers, or support to any side of any human war. No species shall join any human war for any reason. Violation of this law means immediate exile from galactic society. There are no exceptions. There is no appeal." A young delegate raised a tentacle. "Ambassador, why? Humans are not even a major power. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Why do we have such a strict law about them?" Kivran was quiet for a long moment. This question always came, and he never had a good answer. "I do not know," he admitted. "This law is older than any living memory. The records were sealed by the elder races before they left the galaxy. All we have is the warning they carved into the foundation of this very building." He pointed down to the floor beneath their feet. There, cut deep into the ancient stone, were words in a language that no one could read anymore. But the translation was displayed beside them. "Let them fight alone, for all our sakes." The young delegates looked at each other in confusion, but Kivran had nothing more to tell them. The law was the law. That was all anyone knew. Far across the galaxy, on a space station orbiting Mars, Captain Park Do-Yun received his orders. He was a tall man with short black hair and a scar across his left cheek. He had served in the Terran Federation Navy for 15 years. He had fought pirates and rebels and criminals. But he had never fought a real war. That was about to change. "The Free Colonies Alliance has refused our final offer," the admiral on his screen said. "They will not return the Kepler systems to Federation control. The President has authorized military action. Your destroyer, the Indomitable, will join the Third Fleet. You depart in 6 hours." Do-Yun saluted. "Understood, Admiral." The screen went dark. Do-Yun stood alone in his quarters, looking out the window at the red planet below. He thought about his crew. He thought about his family back on Earth. He thought about all the things that could go wrong, but he did not hesitate. He had his orders. He would follow them. 300 light-years away, in the Tau Ceti system, Commander Kong Yuna received her own orders. She was younger than Do-Yun, only 32 years old. But she had already earned a reputation as one of the best officers in the Alliance Navy. Her ship, the cruiser Defiance, was old and battered, but her crew loved her. They would follow her anywhere. "The Federation is coming," her admiral said. "They have 60 warships. We have 40. But we have something they don't have." "What's that, sir?" Yuna asked. "Home ground. And people worth fighting for." Yuna nodded. She understood. The Kepler colonies were not just territory. They were home to 3 million people who had chosen freedom over Federation control. Those people were counting on her. "We won't let them down," she said. After the call ended, Una walked to the bridge of her ship. Her crew was already at their stations, preparing for the long journey to the front lines. They were scared. She could see it in their eyes. But they were also determined. She stood in front of them and spoke. "I'm not going to lie to you. The Federation has more ships than us. They have better weapons. They have more soldiers. On paper, we should lose." The crew was silent. "But wars are not fought on paper," Una continued. "Wars are fought by people. And I know the people on this ship. I know what you can do. The Federation thinks they can take our homes. They think they can make us kneel. They are wrong." A young officer in the front row raised his hand. "Commander, what if we can't win? What if they're just too strong?" Una smiled, but there was something hard in her eyes. Something that had no quit in it. "Then we make them pay for every inch. We make them bleed for every system. We make them remember that the colonies are not free because someone gave us freedom. We are free because we took it, and we'll never give it back." The crew cheered. It was a small sound, just 40 voices in a metal ship floating in the darkness of space. But it was enough. In the great hall of the Galactic Assembly, Ambassador Kivrin finished his speech. The young delegates filed out, already forgetting about the strange law regarding humans. It seemed unimportant. Humans were so far away. Humans were so primitive. What could they possibly do that would threaten the great civilizations of the galaxy? Kivrin watched them go. He wished he could share their confidence. But something in the old warning always troubled him. The elder races had been the most powerful civilizations the galaxy had ever known. They had ruled 1,000 worlds. They had technology that still could not be understood, and yet they had left. They had fled beyond the edge of the galaxy, and they had never come back. They had left behind only one instruction, one desperate warning carved in stone: let them fight alone. For all our sakes. Kivrin looked at the hologram of Earth, still floating in the empty chamber. Such a small planet. Such a young species. And yet the elders had feared them so much that they ran. Why? The old ambassador did not know. But deep in his heart, he hoped he would never find out. Across the void of space, 2 fleets prepared for war. Do-hyun checked his weapons. Una plotted her course. Neither of them knew the other existed yet, but they would. The galaxy watched from a safe distance, forbidden to interfere. And somewhere, in the cold darkness between stars, the war was about to begin. Observer Threll had spent his entire life studying the past. He was a historian, one of the best in the galaxy. He had read millions of documents and visited thousands of ancient sites. He knew more about the elder races than anyone alive, and he knew that the galactic prohibition was a lie, not the law itself. The law was real, but the reason behind it had been lost. Everyone said they didn't know why the elders feared humans, but Threll believed the truth was hidden somewhere, waiting to be found. "We should observe them directly," he told his small team. "Watch their war. Document their behavior. Maybe then we will understand." His team was small. Scientist Morvax was an expert in warfare. He had studied the military tactics of every species in the galaxy. Chronicler Yev was young and eager, responsible for recording everything they saw. Together, the 3 of them took a small ship to the edge of human space. Their vessel was cloaked, invisible to human sensors. They positioned themselves near the Kepler 442 system, where intelligence reports said the war would begin. Then they waited. They did not wait long. The Federation fleet arrived first. 60 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. They were beautiful machines, all sharp angles and glowing engines. Da Hyun's destroyer, the Indomitable, was near the center of the formation. The Alliance fleet was already waiting. 40 ships, older and smaller, but positioned behind a belt of asteroids that gave them cover. Yuna's cruiser, the Defiance, sat at the heart of their defensive line. Interesting, Morvac said, studying his instruments. The Federation has superior numbers and technology. The Alliance has better positioning. By standard warfare calculations, the Federation should win with approximately 60% casualties. Threll nodded. Standard warfare. Let's see if that's what we get. The battle began. The Federation fleet advanced, firing missiles and railgun rounds at extreme range. The Alliance ships returned fire from behind their asteroid cover. The void lit up with explosions as weapons found their targets. Morvax watched with professional interest. Their weapons are primitive. Chemical rockets and kinetic projectiles. Their shields would fail against any of our standard weapons. This is nothing special. But Threll was watching something else. He was watching the human communications, which their ship was able to intercept and translate. Federation vessel hammer is down. Reactor breach. Understood. Close the gap. Make them pay for it. Alliance cruiser Starfall is taking heavy damage. Requesting permission to withdraw. Negative. Hold the line. We don't retreat. The battle continued for 2 hours. Ships died on both sides. Metal twisted and burned in the vacuum of space. Bodies floated among the wreckage, and then something happened that changed everything. A Federation missile struck the Defiance. The explosion ripped through the ship's middle section, tearing. She opened the reactor compartment. Alarm screamed. Fire spread through the corridors. More than half the crew died in the first 30 seconds. Commander Kang Yuna survived. She was on the bridge, and the bridge had emergency shields. But her ship was dying around her. "Commander, we have to abandon ship," her first officer said. He was bleeding from a wound on his head. "The reactor will go critical in 10 minutes. Yuna looked at her screens. The Federation flagship, the Sovereign, was less than 50 kilometers away. It was the command ship for the entire enemy fleet. If it was destroyed, the Federation attack would fall apart. She made her decision in less than a second. "All hands, abandon ship," she announced over the intercom. "Everyone to the escape pods." "That's an order." Her crew began to run. But Yuna did not move. Neither did 4 of her officers, who understood what she was planning. "You don't have to stay," she told them. "We know," her helmsman said. He was a young man named Kim Tai-woo. He had a wife and 2 children on one of the colonies. "We're staying anyway." Yuna smiled. It was a sad smile, but also proud. "Then let's make this count." The escape pods launched, carrying the survivors away from the dying ship. And then the Defiance began to move. On the observation vessel, Morvax frowned. "What is she doing?" "Her ship is crippled. She should be escaping." But Threll understood. His blood ran cold. "She's not escaping," he said quietly. "She's attacking." The Defiance accelerated toward the Sovereign. Its engines should not have been able to function. Its hull was breaking apart. Fire was spreading through every deck. But somehow, impossibly, it kept going. The Federation flagship opened fire. Railgun rounds tore through the Defiance, ripping away entire sections. Missiles struck its engines. Its shields were already gone, but it did not stop. It could not stop. Yuna and her 4 volunteers pushed the dying ship forward with everything they had left. On the bridge of the Sovereign, the Admiral finally understood what was happening. Hard to port. All engines, maximum power. Get us out of her path. But it was too late. The Defiance was too close, moving too fast. For the colonies, Una whispered. The two ships collided. The Defiance's overloading reactor detonated against the Sovereign's hull. The explosion was visible from 1,000,000 kilometers away. Two ships, 2,000 lives, all gone in a single flash of light. And the battle did not stop. The Federation fleet was thrown into chaos. Their command ship was gone. Their admiral was dead. But instead of retreating, they pressed the attack even harder. They were angry now. They wanted revenge. The Alliance fleet was also shattered. Their defensive line was broken. But instead of surrendering, they scattered into the asteroids and continued fighting. They used guerrilla tactics, striking and hiding, making the Federation pay for every inch of space. Chronicler Yev was shaking. His many tentacles trembled as he tried to record what he was seeing. She killed herself. She destroyed her own ship, just to take down one enemy. Not just any enemy, Thrall said. Their command ship. She traded her life for their leadership. Morvax was running calculations, his face pale. This changes everything. In standard warfare, a crippled ship surrenders. Prisoners are taken. Treaties are signed. But she refused to lose. Even dying, she found a way to win. The battle continued for 3 more hours. When it was finally over, both sides had suffered terrible losses. The Federation had won. Technically, they controlled the system, but they had paid a price far higher than anyone had expected. And this was only the first battle. Thrall ordered their ship to follow the conflict as it spread. Over the next few weeks, they saw things that no galactic species would believe. They saw captains fight to the last breath, and crews refuse to surrender, even when their ships were burning. They saw soldiers advance into certain death and wounded warriors refuse evacuation until their missions were complete. Saw humans do things that should have been impossible. They don't fight like any species I've ever studied, Morvax said one night, his voice hollow. They don't fight to win or to survive. They fight to make the enemy suffer, Thrall finished. They fight until there is nothing left to fight with. And then they find something else. Yev had stopped recording. He just stared at his screens, watching the distant flashes of battle, wondering what kind of species would create such monsters. And deep in his heart, Thrall began to understand why the Elders had run away. The war spread like fire across 7 star systems. Planets burned. Stations fell. Ships died by the hundreds. And the alien observers followed, watching, recording, trying to understand. 3 months had passed since the first battle. Captain Park Del-Yun had been promoted twice. Not because of politics or connections, but because everyone above him kept dying. He was now a Commodore, commanding a small squadron of 5 ships. Or at least, he had been. His squadron had been ambushed near the Tau Ceti relay station. Alliance forces had hidden in the radiation shadow of a gas giant, waiting for Federation ships to pass. When Del-Yun's squadron entered the kill zone, they opened fire from all directions. The battle lasted 40 minutes. When it was over, only one Federation ship was still functioning, a damaged frigate with half its crew dead. Del-Yun's own destroyer, the Indomitable, was a drifting wreck. Its engines were gone. Its weapons were silent. Most of its crew was dead or wounded. Del-Yun himself had lost his right arm. A piece of shrapnel had torn through the bridge during the final exchange, killing his first officer and taking his arm at the elbow. He had stopped the bleeding himself, using his belt as a tourniquet, and continued giving orders. Now he floated in the ruined bridge, surrounded by the bodies of his friends. The ship's power was failing. Life support would last maybe 2 hours. The Alliance ships were moving in to finish them off. Del-Yun looked at his surviving crew. 17 people out of 200. Some were wounded. All were exhausted. They had every reason to surrender. "Options," he said. His surviving officer, a young lieutenant named Cho Min-soo, checked his instruments. "Sir, there's one Alliance ship approaching for boarding. A frigate. Smaller than us. Maybe 80 crew. Can we move?" "Negative." "Engines are gone? Weapons?" "We have one railgun still functional. No missiles. No point defense." Do-yun smiled. It was not a nice smile. That's enough. What happened next would become a legend in both navies. When the Alliance boarding party forced their way onto the Indomitable, they expected to find dead bodies and surrendering survivors. Instead, they found Do-yun and his 17 crew members waiting for them in the main corridor. The fight was brutal. Do-yun had lost his arm, but he had found a pistol. He fired until it was empty, then used it as a club. When that broke, he picked up a fallen soldier's rifle and kept shooting. His crew fought beside him. They had no armor, no heavy weapons, just sidearms and determination. 3 of them died in the first minute. The Alliance soldiers were better equipped and better rested, but they were not expecting what they found. "They won't stop," one Alliance soldier screamed into his radio. "They're wounded, they're dying, and they won't stop fighting." The Alliance boarding party retreated. They had lost 20 soldiers trying to take one ruined ship, and Do-yun's crew was still coming after them. In the end, Do-hyun led his remaining survivors onto the Alliance frigate through the same boarding tunnel the enemy had used. They fought through its corridors, deck by deck, killing everyone who stood in their way. When they reached the bridge, only 8 of them were still alive. The Alliance captain tried to surrender. Do-yun accepted. Then he sat down in the captain's chair, bleeding from a dozen wounds, and called for reinforcements. When the Federation rescue ships arrived 6 hours later, they found Do-yun still in that chair. He was barely conscious. He had lost so much blood that his skin was gray. But he was alive, and the captured frigate was now feeding crucial intelligence to Federation forces. The admiral who arrived to take command asked him one question. "What do you need, Commodore?" Do-yun looked up with unfocused eyes. "Ammunition," he whispered, "and a new arm. I'm not done." On the observation vessel, Morvax had to step away from his screens. He was shaking too badly to continue his analysis. "That should not be possible," he said. "No species behaves this way. When you are defeated, you surrender. When you are wounded, you stop. When you are dying, you accept it. That is the natural order. That is how warfare works." But humans did not follow the natural order. Thrall said nothing. He was watching another part of the war, one that disturbed him even more than the space battles. The colony world of New Bizan had been conquered by the Federation 2 months ago. The occupation was harsh. Federation soldiers had taken over the cities, imposed strict curfews, and punished anyone who resisted, but resistance had not stopped. It had simply gone underground, that the observer's instruments detected a network of tunnels beneath the capital city. Thousands of people were living there, hiding from the occupation forces. They had food and water for months. They had weapons they had made themselves from stolen parts and scraps, and they had a leader. Her name was Lee Soman. She was 26 years old. Before the war, she had been a school teacher, teaching young children to read and write. Now she was something else entirely. Thrall watched as her resistance fighters attacked a Federation patrol. They struck from the shadows, killed 3 soldiers, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. It was the 15th attack that week. The Federation sent soldiers into the tunnels to find her. They did not come back. They sent drones and robots. Summon's people destroyed them with traps and ambushes. They threatened to bomb the tunnels, killing everyone inside. Summon's response was broadcast on every channel. "Then bomb us. We would rather die free and live on our knees. 9 months. For 9 months, she held out. Her fighters killed 43 Federation soldiers personally, not with advanced weapons or military training, with kitchen knives and homemade explosives and bare hands. When the Alliance finally liberated New Bizin, they found Somin waiting at the tunnel entrance. She was thin and scarred and exhausted. Her eyes had a look that Threll recognized from Captain Do-Yun, the look of someone who had forgotten how to surrender. An Alliance commander approached her with supplies and medical support. "You're safe now," he said. "We'll evacuate you to a secure location. You've done enough." Somin shook her head. "Where is the nearest Federation base?" "What? The nearest Federation base? Where is it?" The commander checked his map. "About 200 kilometers north. But you don't need to worry about that. We'll handle it." Somin held out her hand. "Give me a rifle." "Ma'am, you're a civilian. You've been through a terrible experience. You need rest and medical care, not more fighting." Somin's voice was very quiet, but it carried the weight of 9 months of darkness and blood. "They burned my school," she said. "They killed my students. I dug graves for children with my own hands. And you think I'm going to rest?" She took the rifle from the commander's belt before he could stop her. "I'm not done," she said, and walked north. On the observation vessel, Chronicler Yev finally spoke. His voice was barely a whisper. "They don't fight like soldiers. They don't even fight like animals. Animals stop when they're beaten. Animals run when they're wounded. But these things, they're not things," Threll said softly. "They're humans. Then what are humans?" Threll thought for a long time before answering. "They are a species that has forgotten how to quit. When they fight until they win or until they die. There is no middle ground. There is no surrender. There is only victory or death." Morvax had recovered enough to return to his screens. His voice was hollow. "In all my studies of warfare, I have never seen anything like this. Every other species, when they reach a certain point of damage, will stop. It's biology. It's self-preservation. But humans don't have that limit," Thrall finished. "Or if they do, it's so far beyond normal that we've never seen it. They will burn themselves to ashes just to take their enemy with them." The 3 observers sat in silence, watching the war continue. Watching humans kill and die and refuse to give up. And for the first time, Threll understood why the elders had been so afraid. Threll returned to the capital world of the Galactic Assembly alone. He left Morvax and Yev to continue observing the human war, but he had a different mission now. He needed answers. He needed to know why the elders had created the prohibition. The elder archives were buried deep beneath the assembly building. They had been sealed for 10,000 years, protected by security systems that no one alive fully understood. Opening them was a crime, punishable by death. Threll opened them anyway. He used his historian's credentials to access the lower levels. He bypassed the security locks with tools he had built over decades of preparation. He walked through corridors that no living being had entered for thousands of years. And he found truth. The archives were massive. Millions of documents filled chamber after chamber, written in languages that had been dead since before most current species had evolved. But Threll was a historian. He could read them. He started with the oldest records, the ones from the time when the elders still ruled the galaxy. And slowly, piece by piece, he put together the story. 12,000 years ago, the galaxy was very different. The elder races were the only advanced civilizations. They had technology that modern species still could not understand. They lived for thousands of years. They traveled between stars as easily as walking between rooms. And they were at war. 2 great elder empires fought for control of the galaxy. The war had lasted for centuries. Billions had died. Neither side could defeat the other. And one empire had an idea. Their scientists had discovered a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy. It was home to a primitive species, barely more than animals. They lived in caves and hunted with stone tools. They called themselves humans, but the scientists saw potential. Humans were clever for their primitive state. They learned quickly. They bred quickly. And they had a quality that the elders had never seen before. They did not know how to give up. The Empire decided to make humans into weapons. They sent ships to Earth and took thousands of humans away. They enhanced them with genetic modifications and technological implants. They taught them to use weapons and fly ships. They gave them a purpose. Destroy the enemy empire. It worked. The human soldiers were perfect warriors. They followed orders without question. They fought with a ferocity that shocked even their creators. They never retreated, never surrendered, never stopped. Within a decade, the enemy empire was weakened. Within 2 decades, it was destroyed. The war was over. The Elder Empire had won. And then they made a terrible mistake. They tried to put the humans back. The experiments are complete, one ancient document read. The human soldiers are no longer needed. They will be returned to their primitive planet, and their modifications will be removed. They will forget everything and return to their simple lives. But humans did not forget. Somewhere in their enhanced minds, they remembered. They remembered being taken from their homes. They remembered being changed against their will. They remembered being used as tools, and they remembered who had done it. The next section of the archives was damaged. Fire had destroyed many of the records. But enough remained to tell the story. The humans did not go quietly back to their caves. Instead, they stole ships. They stole weapons. They organized themselves into fleets. And they turned on their creators. The Elder Empire laughed at first. What could primitive humans do against the most advanced civilization in the galaxy? They had given the humans everything they had. They could take it all away, but they had made a fundamental mistake. They had given humans the knowledge of how to fight, and humans had improved on what they were taught. The war lasted 30 years. The elders called it the Burning Years. Threll read account after account of human attacks. They were not strategic. They were not logical. They were driven by pure, burning rage. They do not fight for territory, one elder commander had written. They do not fight for resources. They fight because they hate us. They fight because we use them. Every world that participated in their creation, every station, every ship, every elder who was involved, they are hunting all of us. And they will not stop. The humans did not take prisoners. They did not negotiate. They did not accept surrender. Every elder world that had been part of the Human Uplift Project was destroyed. Not conquered. Not occupied. Destroyed. The humans burned them down to bare rock. The Elder Empire begged for peace. They offered everything they had. They offered to restore Earth, to leave humans alone forever, to give them whatever they wanted. The humans had only one demand. Leave. Leave the galaxy. Go beyond the rim. Never come back. The Elders, the most powerful civilization the galaxy had ever known, agreed. THRELL found the final record in a sealed chamber at the deepest level of the archives. It was a message from the last Elder Council, written just before they fled beyond the galactic rim. We made a terrible error, the message said. We thought humans were animals. We thought we could use them and discard them. We did not understand what they truly were. Humans are not like other species. When other species are defeated, they surrender. When other species are hurt, they retreat. When other species are faced with overwhelming force, they submit. Humans do none of these things. When you defeat them, they come back. When you hurt them, they remember. When you face them with overwhelming force, They find a way around it. They are not rational. They are not sensible. They are something far more dangerous. They are a species that does not know how to lose. We thought we could control them. We thought we could use them and throw them away. Instead, they destroyed us. Not because they had better weapons, not because they had more soldiers, but because they would not stop. They would never stop. Even when they were dying, even when they were losing, even when there was no hope, they kept fighting. We leave this warning for whoever comes after us. Do not repeat our mistake. Do not interfere with humans. Do not join their wars. Do not give them a reason to unite against you. If they fight each other, they will eventually stop. They will make peace. They will go back to their normal lives. But if they fight together against a common enemy, they will not stop until that enemy is gone. Completely. Forever. We thought we were their masters. We learned too late that we were their prey. The final line of the message was carved in larger letters, as if the writer wanted to make absolutely sure it would be remembered. Let them fight alone, for all our sakes. Thrall sat in the dark chamber for a long time, the ancient words glowing on his screen. Now he understood everything. The prohibition was not about protecting humans. It was about protecting everyone else. Humans were dangerous when divided, fighting among themselves. But divided, they were manageable. They would eventually tire of killing each other. They would make peace. They would rebuild, but united? United against a common enemy? Thrall thought about what he had seen in the human war. The way they fought. The way they refused to surrender. The way they would rather die than lose. Now imagine all of that, focused on a single target. Every human in the galaxy, united by hatred of a common foe. Every ship, every soldier, every civilian, all working together toward one goal, the destruction of their enemy. The Elders had been the most advanced civilization in galactic history. They had ruled for millions of years. They had technology that still seemed like magic, and humans had made them run. Thrall carefully copied all the records onto a hidden device. Then he sealed the archives again, making sure no one would know he had been there. He had the truth now, and he knew he had to share it. The galaxy needed to know what humans really were. The Secret Council met in a chamber that did not officially exist. 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat around a black table, their faces hidden in shadow. They represented species that had guided galactic civilization for thousands of years. Thrall stood before them, showing the records he had stolen from the Elder archives. When he finished, the chamber was silent for a very long time. "This cannot be true," one delegate finally said. His voice was shaking. The Elders were the most powerful civilization in history. "You are saying that primitive humans destroyed them?" "Not destroyed," Thrall corrected. "Drove them away. The humans gave them a choice, leave or be exterminated. The Elders chose to leave." Another delegate leaned forward. "But that was 12,000 years ago. Humans have forgotten all of this. They don't even know we exist. They forgot because the Elders erased their memories when they returned them to Earth," Thrall explained. "But the capacity is still there. The genetic modifications, the enhanced aggression, the inability to surrender. It's all still part of them. It's in their blood. And if they ever have a reason to unite against us... He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Morvax stepped forward. He had returned from the observation mission, and his face was gray with exhaustion. "I have studied their current war. The data confirms everything Thrall has said. Humans do not fight like any other species. They do not stop when they are defeated. They do not surrender when they are outnumbered. They fight until they win or until they die." He displayed his calculations on the central screen. If any galactic power had interfered in this war, human factions would have immediately formed an alliance against the intruder. My projections show that this alliance would form within hours of external intervention. Their internal conflicts would be forgotten. Their only goal would be the destruction of the outside threat. How certain are you of this? A delegate asked. Completely certain. I have reviewed every human conflict in recorded history. Every single time an external force has threatened them, humans have stopped fighting each other and united against the threat. It is not a choice. It is instinct. It is how they are built. The council exchanged nervous glances. So the prohibition protects us. Another delegate said slowly. Not them. Correct, Thrall said. As long as humans fight each other, they are contained. Their energy is spent on internal conflicts. But if we give them a common enemy, they would stop fighting each other and start fighting us. And they would not stop until we were gone. The oldest member of the council spoke for the first time. Her voice was thin with age, but it carried the weight of centuries. I remember the stories my grandmother told me. Her grandmother told her about the burning years. They were not just stories. They were warnings. She looked at the records floating on the screen. Humans do not forgive. They do not forget. If we interfere in their affairs, if we give them a reason to hate us, they will come for us. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. And they will not stop until we are dust. The council voted unanimously. The observation mission was classified at the highest level. All records were sealed. Morvax and Yev were sworn to eternal silence, and the prohibition was reinforced with new severity. From that day forward, no galactic vessel was permitted within 10 light years of any active human conflict. Any species caught providing weapons or support to humans would be immediately expelled from the assembly. The punishment was not just exile from galactic society. It was complete isolation forever. Some of the younger delegates grumbled. They did not understand why such extreme measures were necessary. Humans were so primitive, so confined to their small corner of the galaxy. What threat could they possibly pose? The older delegates did not explain. Some knowledge was too dangerous to share widely. As the council dispersed, Chronicler Yev lingered in the empty chamber. He stood before a holographic map of the galaxy, staring at the small region marked as human space. It was so small. Just a few dozen systems in a galaxy of billions. Humans had no idea how vast the universe was, how many civilizations were watching them from the darkness. Ambassador Kivran joined him. The old diplomat's face was troubled. They think they are alone, Yev said quietly. They look at the stars and see emptiness. They wonder why they have never met anyone else. Kivran nodded. Perhaps that is for the best. Let them believe the universe is empty. Let them fight their small wars among themselves. Let them never know how many eyes are watching. But what if they find out? What if they realize we have been hiding from them all this time? Kivran did not answer. He did not want to think about that possibility that far away. In the human systems, the war was ending. The Federation and the Alliance had fought each other to exhaustion. Neither side had won. Neither side had the strength to continue. After 8 months of bloodshed, they finally agreed to peace talks. Admiral Park Do-yun attended the ceremony on behalf of the Federation. His new prosthetic arm gleamed under the artificial lights of the space station where the treaty was being signed. He had been promoted 3 more times during the war. He was now one of the most senior officers in the entire Navy. Across the table from him sat Commander Kang Minji. She was Yuna's younger sister, the one who had survived. She had been promoted too, and now commanded the rebuilt Defiance II, named in honor of her sister's sacrifice. They did not speak to each other. There was nothing to say. They had been enemies. They had killed each other's friends. Now they were supposed to make peace. The treaty was signed. Hands were shaken. Words were spoken about cooperation and rebuilding and a better future. It all felt hollow. As the ceremony ended, Do-Yun walked to the observation window. The stars stretched out before him, countless points of light in the infinite darkness. Minji joined him. For a long moment, they stood in silence. "My sister talked about you," Minji finally said. "Before the battle. She studied your record. She said you were the most dangerous officer in the Federation." Do-Yun laughed bitterly. "She killed our flagship. She took our admiral with her. I think she was more dangerous than me. She was." Minji's voice was proud and sad at the same time. "She always was." They stood in silence again. "Do you ever wonder," Do-Yun said slowly, "why we've never found anyone else out there? All those stars, all those planets. Mathematically, there should be thousands of civilizations. Millions, maybe. But we've searched for centuries, and we've never found a single sign of intelligent life." Minji shrugged. "Maybe we're just early. Maybe we're the first. Or maybe ... double quotes. Maybe what?" She looked at him with those eyes that had seen too much war. "Or maybe they're hiding from us." Do-Yun laughed. It was meant to be a dismissive sound, but something about it rang hollow. "Hiding from us? We can barely get out of our own solar neighborhood. Why would anyone hide from us?" Minji did not answer. She just looked at the stars. Somewhere beyond those stars, beyond the edge of the galaxy, the elders were still running. They had been running for 12,000 years. They would never stop. And closer, much closer, 100 civilizations watched humanity from the shadows. They watched the treaty being signed. They watched the human fleets return to their bases. They watched the soldiers go home to their families. The war was over. Humans were divided again. The danger had passed, for now. On the observation vessel, Threll recorded his final notes. He had watched the peace ceremony through long-range sensors. He had seen humans shake hands and sign papers and pretend that everything was normal, but he knew the truth now. He knew what lay beneath the surface. "They are sleeping," he wrote. "The beast is sleeping. Their rage is directed at each other, spent in small wars over small territory. They do not know what they are. They do not remember what they did to the elders. They think they are alone in the universe. We must ensure they continue to believe this. We must never give them a reason to look outward. We must never give them a common enemy. Because if they ever wake up, if they ever unite, if they ever turn that terrible fury toward the stars." He paused, looking at the distant blue dot. It was Earth. "Then God help us all." The message was sent, encrypted at the highest level. The observation vessel turned away from human space and began its long journey home. Behind it, humanity went about its business, building, fighting, dreaming, completely unaware that the silence of the cosmos was not emptiness. It was fear. And somewhere beyond the galactic rim, in the cold darkness between galaxies, the elders huddled in their exile. They had been the masters of creation. They had ruled the stars. Now they were refugees, hiding from the species they had tried to enslave. They would never come back. They would never risk being found, because they knew what humans were capable of. And they knew that humans never forgot.